Good morning, dear respected Thai, dear beloved community. This morning we will have an opportunity for a sessions of question and answer. Up here we have 4 brothers and sisters, Brother Bao Tang, Sister True Dedication, Sister Harmony, and myself. We will have an opportunity to ask questions of the practice, questions that concerns our happiness and our suffering. And we try not to be so intellectual in our question. And none of us, we have the full answer, but we have experience in our practice that we can offer a sharing regarding the question. And a good question can benefit many, many friends who are here. And a good question doesn't have to be long. And we only have one chance to ask one question because we have so many of us that is here. So dear friends, if you have a question and you would like to ask, you are welcome to also come up to the chair that is available. And just like the children, we'll listen to a sound of the bell before we ask our question. And please come up, and for those who also have a question, we can sit and we have a line here. We'll come up one by one.
Dear Thai, dear community, this is a question for the sister True Concentration. True Dedication, sorry. I know you were a journalist, so is that for you? Is how to deal with the news, because, well, I know they are just getting all what is wrong in the world, what is not working, and I think they are creating a very negative energy in us and in the world. So how to protect ourselves for that when we read the news and, well, everything is like a disaster, and how to contrast that a negative collective energy that are creating. Because at the end, I mean, what we say is affecting our perception. So I think it's affecting very much the negative perception that we have. That is the question. Thank you.
Dear respected Thai, dear community, so the question is about how we can handle the news, and the news may be negative and toxic and affect our perceptions, and yet we need to know what's going on. So how can we practice with consuming news? Yes, okay. Thai, our teacher, used to say that we need a strategy for how we will consume media. And each one of us, we can ask ourselves, do I have a strategy? Or am I like a vulnerable animal with a kind of skin disease where everything is just coming at me from all directions, even if it is toxic? So when we speak about a strategy, it means we want to make a commitment to ourselves and maybe to our partner and our family. How can we protect our consciousness? Yeah? How many hours will we watch a week? How often will we watch the news? So we bring in the element of mindfulness and also protecting ourselves and our home environment. I will share something quite strong that I heard from someone in Deer Park, a practitioner. And they said that they had been watching a series on a streaming platform, I guess, I don't know which one. And they said they suddenly realized that they didn't want to see people murdered in their living room. And I thought this was a very powerful reflection that came from their practice of mindfulness. So when we open a screen, when we bring those things into our home environment, whether it's fiction or news, we are bringing those images, that violence or that fear, into our home environment. And as a family and as a couple, as a relationship, we want to see what is our plan. What seeds in our consciousness are we watering? So it may be literally we have to think about limits on hours, limits on days, which shows or TV news programs are more toxic or less toxic. So we have to have a plan. And now we know that a lot of devices also have screen time limits. So we may need to set up some screen time limits. So there's a practical aspect to this. In the Plum Village tradition, we say our energy of mindfulness guards us. So the foundational practice of mindful breathing, mindful walking, being aware of what we're doing, being aware of the feelings that come up when we watch the news, it introduces an element of freedom, and we could say, how much is enough, right? So it's the insight of realizing that something is toxic that will give us the courage to set the boundaries, okay? When we watch the news, we can also practice Plum Village mantra, which is, there's a couple we can use. One is, am I sure? Am I sure? And another one is, you are partly right. So even we think we have a reliable news source, we should always never believe it 100%. Whose view is this? Which parts of the story are missing? And not take it too seriously. Try and read between the lines. That's what the journalists, if there are any other journalists here, that's what we're often doing. In this question is the question, we need to know what is going on in the world, right, in order to be informed as citizens and in how we will lead our life. And maybe when we talk about quantity of news, maybe we only need 5%. There was one phase in my monastic life, I only read the headlines. I was like, I don't need to click on the story. Often the headlines are enough. I think sometimes we can get intoxicated by the detail, but that we can already practice very well. Maybe we need a homeopathic dose of the news. Homeopathic is very powerful. When we come back to the present moment, we see that often a lot of the stories are not to do with our present moment. And I think the more we practice, the more we see this. And don't let the news steal the happiness from your present moment. Of course, our present moment is deeply connected to the suffering in the world. the temperatures that we have had this week are deeply connected to the systemic problem of climate change, which is connected to government policies, right? So we can be aware of this suffering, but we can also still enjoy the beauty of the present moment. And in our practice, we want to hold the two together at the same time. Don't deny ourselves the beauty that is available in the present moment, while also deeply being aware of the suffering, and our awareness of the suffering will inform us as citizens. But I think often the news steals our happiness. We have a happy day, we watch the news, and then we feel sad. So don't lose your freedom. Life is short, life is precious, and we only need just enough news to be able to act, but not so much that we feel overwhelmed. Thank you.
I add a little bit more. Usually in the newspapers, we have more negative news than positive news. But we also have a magazine that is always publish good news, which is Mindfulness Bell. We have all good articles, all beautiful stories of life transformation. But it's not, I guess, but it's not many enough to attract the readers. And also it tells something about our culture, is we are addicted to intensity. You know, if we read story of transformation, it's so peaceful. You know, it's not so like rise up, you know, adrenaline in our body. So it's not that many will subscribe mindfulness bouts. Or like this retreat, how many transformation stories need to be broadcast, need to be shared with the world, but we don't have it. So we can also create a kind of news that we want to share with the world. And I think there's so many stories, beautiful stories in this retreat. If we have energy and time, we can collect and we can share with the world.
Thank you very much, and I hope my question is appropriate. You know, I'm wondering, with the invasion of Russia and Ukraine, the peace movement has been confronted with a very difficult situation. So from a non-violent perspective, how do you react to such aggression?
Thank you for your question. I'll repeat it. I think this is a koan for all of us. With the invasion of the Ukraine, how can the peace movement respond in a non-violent way? How can we have a non-violent response to something like the invasion of the Ukraine?
Dear Thai, dear community, yeah, this war has been in my heart on the daily basis. I don't really have a clear answer to that, but I keep it in my heart. And every time I look at that, I can sense that there is distrust on human being inside of me to see that situation. But at the same time, I see that what I need to face that situation is to have trust on humanity also. And I believe that in this world, there are many people who understand deeply inside this conflict. And I believe that they also have access to do what they need to do to stop this violence. And I have to practice in a way to get in touch with these people so that they can advance their work and to reach a certain result, so that the suffering can be reduced as fast as possible. Which, when I look at myself, I don't see that I have that access to do it directly in terms politically or in the, even war has a rule, has a way how to war, basically, which I don't have access to. But what I see, what is very important that I see is when I touch that conflict, I can see what is arising in my mind. And the biggest seed that arises in my mind is despair, because I don't know how to stop that. And when I look at that, it will not be helpful for me to nourish that seed of despair, because it is not good to me in terms of my mental health and also my physical health if I continue that for a long time. So I have to practice with that and to take care of that despair, take care of that frustration, so that that seed does not overwhelm my daily life, so that I can still continue to smile every day. And I think this is happened in many people also. And this week we come together in order to be able to cultivate that peace, that happiness, that joy inside of us. And that good quality, that seeds that we cultivate this week is to take care of our mind, of our body, towards what happened in the world. I have been paying attention to these three mental formation: despair, fear, and anxiety. That is so collective right now. And this is our co-responsible to take care of that seed and transform that. And we need to do our best to produce the peace, the hope, the trust. And that is doable if we practice it. Yeah. And for me, if I'm able to transform, to take care of my fear, frustration, and despair, I know that one person in the world has been saved. And if I know the other person can do, then I know they are the second victim of the war has been saved, and etc. And the war is a manifestation on condition, and the non-war is also a manifestation of condition. And when we look at the war that is happening is a result of many conditions. So we cannot just say, please stop the war. We need to take care of all of the conditions. Yeah. And for me, the victim of the war is not only in the war zone, but it's also the whole globe, including myself. I'm also the victim of the war. If I have despair in my mind, right now, I'm also the victim of the war, and I need to save the first person of the victim. So until today, my practice is to trust, to continue to see how I can continue to trust human and to trust those who have direct access. And I see that there are so many work has been done. I see that people hand in hand helping as much as they can. And as a Sangha, as a community, what we really need to do is to take care of our frustration, our despair, and help as many as possible to have peace in themselves, in oneself, in order to contribute to what is happening right now. And day and night we need to see if we have access to do something directly. Once we see we have access, we can do it directly. Yeah. And we should not be frustrated when we have no direct access. Then we know we have people who really understand and know how to do it. And we have to trust that people. If today I have access and I know how to go there and do something, I will go. But unfortunately, I don't know how. I don't have enough knowledge to do that. But I believe from 7 billion people on the earth, there must be many, many people know how to do it. And I need to trust them. And I also have to trust you, that you can also cultivate peace inside of yourself and take care of all the frustration and fear. And together as a Sangha, we can do it. This is my response. Thank you for your listening.
Before we have the next question, I'd just like to add something about non-violence. Our teacher has said that peace is a practice. And so as Thai was a peace activist in the Vietnam War, and then he became very active in the peace movement, in particular the campaign against nuclear disarmament and the peace movement in the 70s and 80s in the West. And Thai said he realized there was a lot of anger in the peace movement. And he realized that you could send all the bombs in the world to the moon, and you would still have the roots of war in the hearts and minds of people. And actually, Thai's vision for creating Plum Village was to create a community that could cultivate practices of peace and nonviolence. So we can look at it as a long-term response to war. And maybe in the case of what has happened in the last few months in Europe, in Ukraine, as Brother Bao Tang shared, the roots of that war have been going on for a long time. They've been ripening for a long time. And maybe many of us in Europe have taken peace for granted. Maybe we haven't actively been cultivating peace enough in the collective consciousness and really being vigilant as citizens how precious peace is to us. I was so surprised in the first few days of the war how many millions and millions of dollars of weapons went into the situation. And I thought, why aren't they spending millions and millions in flying jets of diplomats to fly into Moscow? Why was the proportion of resources invested in communication and dialogue and diplomacy so small compared to the amount of resources invested in weapons? Can we do better as a species, as humanity? And in particular, how, with the collective consciousness of panic and reaction, did we support that amount of weapons going in so quickly? And where in our collective consciousness were we supporting dialogue and communication? And that's why in our retreats, such an important part of the practices that we're learning are around deep listening, listening to those who have difficulties, listening to the suffering of other people, so that we can listen ultimately to the suffering of other groups, other nations. So for Thai, the communication practices that we cultivate and that he developed here in Plum Village are a kind of long-term contribution to non-violent solutions. And Sister Chanduk, one of our elder sisters, she said, well, it may be very difficult for us to address the war that is now going on in Ukraine. But what the seeds that we are cultivating here as a community will help prevent future wars. So we're looking at a long-term perspective as well as an immediate one. But in the immediate term, a lot of listening, a lot of breathing, and a lot of dialogue and lack of, to temper the pride a little bit and really try to listen and understand is at the root of a non-violence response to war. Thank you.
Hello. I recently fell back into study of the Heart Sutra, actually since my arrival here in Plum Village, and have been fascinated by fixating on these concepts of binaries in our lives. The illusion of paired opposites, increasing, decreasing, immaculate or defiled. And I'm curious for you if there are any binaries in your personal practice that you struggle with or value, or anything that you find yourself revisiting in those paired opposites.
I'll start. In the Heart Sutra, the teaching that the Heart Sutra offers us the insight is that we need to learn to be free from all notions, that we cannot be dependent on just one thing, but we have to interbe with everything. And that is the raft that will help us arrive to the shore of liberation. That is the ultimate. That is the teachings that we have to light up every day. For myself, the ego is my practice. We aspire to see that each other's happiness is our own, and as well as my own suffering is the other's suffering, and the other's suffering is my suffering. But we're very picky, and I'm very picky. When people are happy and fresh, can I have a cup of tea with you? But then when someone suffers, maybe not today. But that is because I haven't practiced the Heart Sutra. I haven't practiced the insight of interbeing. So for myself, learning to continue to see the one is the all and the all is the one. The second Dharma seal in the Plum Village tradition is go as a river. And this is the insight that is also the core teachings of Buddhism, as well as the direct transmission of our teacher, is that when I am practicing right here, right now, my own transformation is also not my own. But there is a very direct connection with my blood ancestors as well as my spiritual ancestors, so that my own transformation can also be the transformation of my blood ancestors. My closest blood ancestors are my parents. When I practice, I know very concretely that they are in me. There are moments in my daily life that I can truly connect to my mother and my father. I can see the habits of my mother and my father inside of me. When I don't have mindfulness, I get very upset at myself. I get very judgmental with myself. But when I have mindfulness, I can smile to that habit. And I can smile, hello, mother. Hello, father. I know you are there. The good qualities, I would say, thank you. I'm going to make it even better. And then the qualities that are not supportive, I see this as an opportunity to transform this for my mother and my father. And this is the practice of no self. In that very moment, even though there is a self, but it is also no self. So in the historical dimension, I am a direct continuation of them. And as I am transforming my own suffering, there is something I'm doing also for my future generation, which I am taking care of habits that I won't transmit to them. Such as I shared, I won't have biological children as long as I am a monk, but I will have students. And already in my relationship, in your way of looking, your way of speaking, your way of action, that is a transmission. So to see the continuous river of transmission is also the insight of the Heart Sutra. When we look at the environment, yesterday, I think we all experienced the smoke. And I don't know how you felt, but when I woke up with fear. So what's going on? Where's the fire? What's happening? Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. And your mind goes on a journey. And right away, for me, when I recognize that this is the fire that was in Bokdo, even though it is not I don't see the flame, but I can see the suffering already. That is also insight. And so I bring it back to myself. How do I take care of my present moment so I don't contribute to more fires and more destruction of our beautiful planet? So no self helps us. Emptiness, the emptiness in the Heart Sutra is the emptiness that nothing can exist by itself, but everything is interrelated. All actions have impact. And this Heart Sutra, we have to not just chant it, study it, but we have to live it. And living it is the real homework that we all have to see our capacity and develop the understanding of emptiness, which will help us break free from the left, the right, the up, the above, the right, the wrong, light, darkness. And in the teaching of emptiness is when it comes to suffering and happiness, it touches on this, that we cannot look for a world where there is only happiness. That world does not exist. The two have to come together. Wherever there is happiness, you know suffering is also there. But wherever there is suffering, you know that happiness is also there. And we, with the mindfulness practice, individually and collectively, we have to help shine the light and cultivate and build the happiness and the joy in order to help transform the suffering. So there is an interrelated relationship towards happiness and suffering. And we also have to learn to not discriminate between happiness and suffering. This is the practice of the Heart Sutra, to touch the emptiness in all opposites, and to be more and more free in our own hearts. Coming back to the 4 elements of love, that love is available in the emptiness because you have the capacity to understand the past, the present, and the future, and see your relationship of the present, how it can transform the past, and your present, how it is building a future. So the Heart Sutra gives us the raft to the shore. That's why Thai translated it, the sutra that brings us to the other shore. And when we are at that shore, though, we don't become attached to it. We throw the raft away, because later we will meet another shore, and we need to cultivate another understanding, because we are always growing. That's what we have to understand in our practice, is our practice is also ever-changing. Our understanding is also always growing. So our insight can also be empty, so that we can have more insight, newer insight. I hope that helped. Thank you very much. Yeah.
We will have one written question. Is enlightenment the goal of the practice at Plum Village? What is enlightenment, and how is it connected to mindfulness? Very practical question. Yes, mindfulness leads to enlightenment. But we want to share with you, this is not a matter of individual enlightenment, but this is about collective enlightenment. As you just heard, a number of questions about all kinds of issues in the world right now. And what is most vividly we experience all through the last few days is the heat. And it's going to happen frequently. And so this is a call for all of us to awaken from our way of life, from our way of consuming, from our way of ignoring. In English, we call the word inertia. Inertia. We all have this inertia, like we are immune to the problem somewhere else. As long as it's not here, we are okay. So we really need to have this collective mindfulness. And as you experience in this retreat, in our Dharma sharing, this quite amazing insight and awakening. That is enlightenment. We don't talk about the grand enlightenment that is not related to the daily issues, to the social issues. And I think we already have this awakening, because every summer when we register for the summer retreat, many people want to come. This is a sign that shows that we all really need this practice, this environment. We need the Sangha, we need practitioners, so that we all can practice and we can generate this collective mindfulness. And from this collective mindfulness and concentration, it will lead to insight, which is awakening, which is enlightenment. And we really need the collective enlightenment.
Thank you so much for this sharing and your time. This question is about navigating our lives and our personal decisions. And there is great comfort in and beauty in the understanding that life kind of evolves as it should, and things happen at the right time and at the right place. But at the same time, we also know we have to be active participants in the formation of our futures and of those of others. So how do we reconcile these seemingly two different aspects or even opposites in our own decision-making when it's not always so clear, or we don't always feel the intuition so clearly?
Okay, so I'll recap the question to see if we have...
Someone's Plum Village app.
Someone has the Plum Village app activated. We just had a nice sound of the bell here in the hall. So the question is, how do we balance maybe a practice of acceptance and going with the flow of conditions as our life evolves, together with a sense of agency and really engaging to make decisions that take our life in our chosen direction. So this balance of acceptance and flowing with initiating agency or change. Okay. And especially this may be challenging if we don't have an intuition about what the right response to any decision might be. I'll start just by sharing my own experience with this problem. It's not an easy one. I once met a nun here in Plum Village, and I was at a point where I was aware I needed to make some decisions, and I didn't know how to make them. Because I'd taken a sabbatical to be in Plum Village, and I was like, now what do I do? And I didn't have the courage. I didn't know what to do, and I felt I couldn't see any signs what I should do. And this nun was so strong. She said, "You haven't listened to yourself enough. You need to learn how to sit still and listen to your heart." I was like, okay. And then she's like, "For a few hours." You know, I was like, okay. "Have you sat down for a few hours to listen to your heart?" Because I guess I'd been like chewing on a problem, but not going deeply into it. So that was quite a challenge. And then it really gave me a sense that there was a lot more listening I needed to do to my heart. And what I also discovered is that, I was listening to what was most important for me. Like, what do I really want to do with my life? What kinds of experiences do I want my days to be filled with? What kind of people? And then ultimately that led me to a question like, not just what do I want to do with my life, but when I'm on my deathbed, what do I want to have realized? And I realized that I had a lot of healing I wanted to do. That I felt that if I was on my deathbed, however soon or late that would be, and if I hadn't done that inner healing, I would feel that I had betrayed this chance to be alive. And that was a very unexpected discovery, because I thought I was deciding whether I would resign from my job or not. And then, so I had a different perspective on what was most important to me. And what was interesting is, as soon as I saw what was most important to me, the action happened. Like, it was so easy to resign from my job and then do another 50 things that needed to happen if I was serious about becoming the master of my life, my time, my energy, my environment, and my healing. So for me, it was a lot about listening. And then our teacher has this great phrase. He's like, once there is seeing, there is acting. Like, if we really see what we need, what we want, what our heart is calling for, the action will happen naturally. And when we speak about freedom and liberation in the practice, for me, that is the freedom of agency and taking control of our life and realizing we have so many more choices than we think. And with the stability of our mindfulness practice, with the protection of the 5 mindfulness trainings, we can be very safe to do some very radical things with our life. But the foundation is that stability that comes from our practice and our ethical path And we can do some very brave things, but we're safe in doing it. And we have nothing to fear. Even the reactions of our loved ones, even the reactions of our peers, we can handle it. I wonder if my brothers and sisters would like to add.
Very good.
Oh, okay.
Very complete answer.
Okay. Enjoy listening to yourself.
Thank you.
Hi, dears. Thank you for this.
Listen to the bell first.
I will ask a question about being mindful in the hardest times. I read a lot about many people ask a question about what if the moment was very hard or very frustrating, so how I will live it. And to be honest, I wasn't convinced with the answers from some spiritual teachers out of the Thai learning experience. So last day in the Dharma talk, the brother or sister, I don't remember who exactly, but they talked about the problem of the heat and how if we listen to the trees and we realize that there is a breeze coming, we could feel it and it will ease our pain from the heat and something like that. So you will be mindful during this hard time of being heated. But I'm asking about extremely hard times, like extremely suffering, extremely in pain, when the one is in pain. And I've experienced this, and I've been doing many types of meditation, and during extreme pain, I couldn't be in the moment. I couldn't concentrate on anything, just the pain. And I'm wondering if that concentration on the pain and living the pain is the mindfulness itself. And is there something that we should do, or what's the recommendation of living the moment when we are extremely in pain and overwhelmed by the suffering and the emotions of pain, that we can't open our heart or mind to think of anything else but just living the pain, the moment of pain, because it's too much for a human to handle. And that vibration came to my mind too many times, and I decided to ask this question because I'm sure that as long as it's in my mind, it will help many others, because we live the suffering. Every one of us live these moments. So I wish that I could have an answer for this.
Dear Thai, dear community and dear friend. Human being has a very high capacity of adaptation. And I believe that there are some countries can be 50-degree heat, and they are still a country until now. And it's the same with the pain that we have. There is always a way to adapt. But in order to do that, we need to explore, we need to practice it, to get in touch with. I think for myself, my experience handling pain, especially psychological pain, like feeling, suffering, is to first of all, to recognize that I'm not friend with the pain, and that make it worse actually. And there was a period of time where I feel pain in my body, in my mind, from the head to the feet. I can't really find where is the place that can have pleasant feeling. I had not capacity to recognize it. And at that time, I remember that I did so hard in the practice. I tried to meditate for several hours, and that purpose of the meditation is to not have pain, rather than face the pain, but I don't want to have pain, so that the pain does not really, it does not do much to that pain, but instead it becomes more intense. And when I practice walking meditation at that time, it's also to not to have pain and try to escape from that pain, but the pain is there. After 3 months of practicing, I have to leave my white flag that I give up. I surrender to the pain. I say to myself that maybe I should stop fighting you from today. And instead of being your enemy, now I would like to be a volunteer to suffer. And from that day, I vowed to myself that I am a volunteer to hold the suffering for myself. It means when I go to eat, I will eat with pain. When I go to sleep, I will sleep with pain. When I'm resting, I will rest with pain. But I still believe that the practice of deep relaxation can produce a pleasant feeling. And it takes a few weeks to be able to get in touch again with the pleasant feeling in my body. And the first time I get in touch with the pleasant feeling in my body, I feel so joyful. I feel so happy, because that is the first time I feel pleasant feeling again. And I prescribe myself 5 times a day deep relaxation. I have to let go all my social life. So every time I have free time, I will lie down instead of hanging out with someone else. Instead of doing something that I like to do, I let go everything. Every time I have free time, I will just lie down and just get in touch with my body. Collect each drop of pleasant feeling of my body. And also practicing mindful step in order to collect every drop of pleasant feeling. Every single thing that I was doing at that time is in order to collect all the pleasant feeling as much as I can. And it took me about 70 days. I calculate every day in my calendar. Every morning I woke up, I say, it's still there. Okay, I'm ready for today. I will walk with pain, I will eat with pain, I will drink with pain, I will rest with pain. Yeah. After 70 days, it becomes peaceful. All the pleasant feeling help to handle that. And it allows me to have a deep conversation with myself, to know where this pain comes from, and to be able to know what things that make me unhappy in my life. I have to kind of do, instead of body scanning, I do the life scanning and collect everything that is important that I feel unhappy in the past and see what I can do with that. And in fact, I found that less than 5 things that I'm unhappy about in my life. And basically that 5 things that create pain in me. And because I have peace, I have pleasant feeling in my body, and I have enough courage and compassion for myself, then I'm able to reconcile with one by one. Yeah. So pain is the matter of adaptation, and also there are infinite strategy. We can explore and try to find as many ways as possible, and we need to put it into practice and see how it goes. But to be able to be courageous to face our pain is the first step that we need to do. Yeah. And for myself, to volunteer, to have this heart of voluntarily, to have this heart of generosity to handle the pain, it helps. I hope this is helpful, and I don't know if brothers and sisters would like to add something.
Can I just share very shortly? I know we're almost out of time. But what I saw in our practice is also learning to embrace the pain. So mindfulness of pain, embracing pain, and then you can generate other energy to be with the pain. So you can soothe and take care of the pain, physical and emotional. I had a very strong experience with Thai, and it really taught me something very deep about acceptance. You know, after the stroke our teacher was paralyzed on the right side. And we did everything we can in the capacity of doctors, therapists, and Thai's own capacity in order to try to bring back mobility on the right side. And there were times I saw Thai was in a lot of pain with trying to bring back the mobility. But Thai was very mindful of every action, every intention. And all of this mindfulness was cultivated when you are well. So don't wait until you are in pain to practice. You have to practice while we are still capable, while we are happy. Our capacity of practice is much stronger. And there was one day, it really touched my heart, because Thai's right hand was the one that was paralyzed. And if you know anything about our teacher, all of his books and poetry, calligraphy, were written with the right hand. There's only one book he wrote with a typewriter, not book, poem. And through the sessions of therapy, I would see Thai really give a lot of energy in order to regain the mobility and the mastering. But there was one day, very tenderly, Thai was in pain. And Thai didn't practice, but instead, Thai offered love. And with his left hand, very mindfully, he started to scan his right hand. And I was just behind him, observing this mindful moment. And Thai would start to put his left hand on his right, from shoulder down to bicep, down to arm, very gently. And Thai had a smile, even though there was pain. And then Thai took his hand and it was so deep and profound, because in that moment, we learn to accept our limits. We are human, so we have our limits. We are of the nature to grow old. We are of the nature to be sick. We are of the nature of impermanence. So in that moment, Thai was practicing emptiness and letting go. And so even in pain, we can generate other energies that we have cultivated. The love, the tenderness, the humanity, and the acceptance. And in that very moment when Thai was putting his hand on his cheek, it was a profound moment of acceptance that I got to witness. And Thai was very free in his last days. If you listen to the podcast, sorry, our Sister True Concentration, Sister Nghiem, shared very beautifully about Thai's last moment. Because Thai have accepted, even in pain, you can be free. And so the way that you would enjoy your life. So for us, happiness doesn't rely when there's no pain. It's about our view. And you know, when Thai let go of all of his therapy, and we were a little bit in pain because we wanted Thai to regain his speech and regain his movement. But that was our own view, our own attachment. But what I saw in Thai was Thai knew that the present moment is not limited by being able to talk or being able to move. And so you learn to change your view, accept the pain, accept your limit. Then your life continues to be so rich and so profound. And so this is deep practice and deep looking, and to have also the insight that we are of the nature of impermanence. We are of the nature to get old, of sickness. Our level of acceptance will also be present, and when we can accept, new possibility arrives. Just like we learn to listen to ourselves, and we see that life is not limited. Just because we cannot do this or that, we are not, happiness is not there. That's not correct. Because our way of being with mindfulness, we can adapt differently and accept differently. So thank you. Dear friends, dear community, our time is up. Thank you so much for all of the questions, all of the brave courage to be shared in front of everyone, as well as to all of the listeners for you to be present and support all of the questions also. Let us now listen to 3 Sound of the Bell as we close our session of questions and answer. Dear friends, please take time to massage your legs. I have a special announcement. Speaking of news, we have a very special edition of a newsletter. So this year, 2022, is also the anniversary of 40 years of Plum Village, as well as the year our teacher continued, pass on, transformation. So we have put together a very special edition called the Plum Village newsletter, honoring Thai and celebrating 40 years of Plum Village. So there are many beautiful articles that are written in this newspaper, from stories of brothers and sisters and lay practitioners throughout the 40 years. We can see the journey of Plum Village. So this is a special edition that you can purchase and bring home and to celebrate, be part of our celebration of 40 years of Plum Village. Thank you.